So wait for you to thumbs up.
Yes. All right. Hold on.
Hello, my name is James Bozenka. This is my third year attending iMatterFest. This is my favorite day out of the year. I always love coming to a festival that represents values that I hold and getting to see a lot of the bands that I listen to actually on a personal basis and bands that I listen to on a regular basis. I shared my iMatter story 2 years ago, and a lot has changed since then, but I figured that I could recap and let you know that you can overcome pretty much anything in your life, and I hope that my story will help you realize that. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, to parents that I honestly think should have never married. They were very incompatible people. They were people that they weren't meant to be, and when I was 3 years old, my mother and father got divorced, and my father, he always had a trouble with drugs and addiction, and from the ages of 3 to about 14, I did not know my father. I knew who he was, I knew his name, I kind of knew his face, not really, but from about 3 to 14, my mom was my mother and my father. And when he came back into my life, I really didn't know how to react to it because he was trying to be my father, but I was also 14. I was going on 15. And it's a stage of life where you're moving away from your parents. You're moving away from your parents. You're moving into independence. Because in a few years, you're going to be out on your own, whether you're going to college, whether you're going straight into work. You know, it's a very important time of someone's life, and we moved around a lot when I was a child, and that didn't allow me to keep very consistent friendships. That didn't allow me to keep friends for very long, and I'm not that old. I'm almost 22, but I didn't have access to the internet until I was about 14, and social media wasn't really something that I could partake in until I was about 14, 15 years old, and so until about that age, I was alone. I grew up with a mom that we have a great relationship now, but a few years ago, I couldn't have said the same thing. She was a woman that now that I love very dearly, very dearly now, but at the time, we had different ideas of what love should look like, and I just, didn't realize at the time the stress that goes with being a single mother and raising not just me, but my brother and my sister. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety. And when I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with chronic depression. So by the time I was 12 years old, I was already suffering from 2 major mental illnesses. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, and we moved to southern Pennsylvania when I was about 10 years old. When I went to a school where I was one of 6 white kids, and 2 of the other ones were my brother and my sister. And I was constantly ostracized. I was constantly made fun of for the color of my skin, which I know that can sound funny coming from a white guy, but it's my story, and I hope that you know that if I ever get to meet you in person, I'll believe you if you tell me a story of a time where you were discriminated against based on a factor of what you were going through, because it's something that a lot of people that are like me don't get to experience, and it's something that I'm thankful for in a very strange way, because it allows me to gain an understanding and a perspective that I may not have gained before. But going back to the mental illness, by the time I was 13, 14 years old, I had begun attempting suicide. I could not see myself living in this world. I could not see myself bearing the pain, as I lived in a house with a mother that didn't quite understand me, and siblings that formed a pact against me, and a school that didn't want to accept me and ostracize me for something that I couldn't control. And so I literally began to think that there was no place for me in this world, that everybody and everything would be better off if I was not here. And so when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I was beginning to attempt suicide. And the closest I ever came to actually taking my own life was when I was 15 and a half years old. And I'm not going to get too preachy on this, But I grew up agnostic because I didn't believe that God had a place in my life. I believed there was something out there, but I didn't quite know what it was. When I was 15 and a half years old, I was met by Jesus Christ, and he taught me that I don't have to kill myself to escape this pain. And if you watch this someday, and you don't believe in God, don't act like I'm forcing you to, like I'm forcing you to believe in God. I want you to take that journey on your own, because it was a journey that I had to take on my own, because I had a father that the little exposure I had to him growing up, whether it was through phone calls or very brief visits, he would try to tell me about Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, and it was things that I did not comprehend, and I tried to have conversations with him and say, Dad, I don't understand these things, but it was more of a, you need to understand these things and you will understand these things types of conversation. And don't get me wrong, I love my father now, and we have a relationship. I don't want you to get the idea that I hate my father, because I don't. I love my father very much. I just want to tell you these things so you get the background of my story. And so when I was about 15 and a half, I met Jesus, and Jesus met me, and I made the decision that I wasn't going to end my life, and that I was going to dedicate my life to being in a band, and maybe not necessarily preaching the gospel, but just preaching a message to everyone that, whether you're Christian, whether you're atheist, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're gay, lesbian, straight, trans, no matter what you are, in my band, I want to preach a message that you can attain something, that you can take away something from my shows, and from my band shows, and you can feel welcome at our shows. And I'm not going to act like I'm the best musician in the world, because I'm not, but I do believe God has blessed me with a gift, and I do believe God has blessed me with something that maybe others don't have. And instead of using that for my own selfish gain, I want to use that for even you watching this, maybe someday. I want to use that for you to write songs about my past that can help you in your present. And I just want you to know that if you take anything from this, it's not the fact that you need to start believing in God to be happy. It's not you need to automatically forgive your parents no matter what, no matter what they did. I want you to know that there's always another choice to suicide. Because I made the decision on April 5th, 2012, that I would never end my life. And it has been still a daily battle of choosing life over death. And let me tell you, it is not an easy battle. There are times where I still come close. Sometimes I try to act strong for my friends, and maybe I shouldn't, but it is a daily battle. And just know that it is not wrong to still struggle with things, even if after you make the decision to live. I want you to get help. I want you to have a support system. There's hotlines, there's resources, there's churches. There's many things that are available to you for you not to end your life. And please, if I would have ended my life 6 years ago, I would have not been able to have the incredible past 6.5 years that I've been able to experience, and meet all the amazing people that I've been able to meet, experience everything that I've been able to experience. I'm telling you, especially if you are 13, 14, 15 years old, it can get better. And I want you to know that. And when I say it can get better, I want you to realize that you have to work at it as well. And I know that was something that was hard for me to take. But whenever I realized that I had community of people that I could depend on that would help me through that process of making it better, it became better. I know it's hard to open up. I know it's hard to be open about your struggles. It took me years to just say that I struggled with wanting to kill myself. But I want you to know that you're loved. That's my I Matter story.
Thank you for sharing. That's a great testimony.